Butterfly Booktubers, welcome to another video. I'm just excited because I have had probably the most productive reading month in a while. I think I was in a bit of a reading slump. Well, I wouldn't really say much, call it a slump, but I mean, I did go through a period back in, I would say, September, November, or October, where I didn't read quite. Well, maybe it was more September, but today we are reviewing two books that I just finished, and I'm excited to do this review, so we're going to get started. The books I'll be reviewing today that I finished are Tiger's Curse by Colleen Houck and Burned by Ellen Hopkins. I just recently bought this book too, and I just could not help myself. I had to read it right away, and it literally, since it was in verse, I mean, it took me absolutely no time. But I think I think I'll go over this one first. Let me just get my notes out here. All right, guys. Okay, so we are talking about Burned. All right. This is by Ellen Hopkins, published by McElderry Books. It is approximately 531 pages. It is a YA fiction. How I discovered and acquired this book? Well, of course, I purchased it at make sure, Barnes and Noble. Yes, I had to get that right. And I discovered it by my good friend Megan, who is my Turner Syndrome sister, TS sister, and really good friend of mine, and we buddy read. And I read this at home, of course, during this month of November. And I gave this book a full 5 stars, and I would recommend it to everybody, and I would definitely check out. I'm definitely going to read other books by this author, Ellen Hopkins, because she is becoming one of my favorite authors, if not my most favorite. But this book follows Patton, I think I pronounced that correctly, Patton Van Straten. The characters, it's a long list of characters. Justin, Ethan, Derek, Carmen, Tiffany, her dad, her mom, her sister, her aunt, Ethan's dad, and her abusive alcoholic father. And what happens is, she starts out, she's a young Mormon. Well, she doesn't claim to be Mormon, but she comes from a Mormon family. And also, once again, I am going to go into spoilers. So if you have not read this book and do not want to be spoiled, I'm going to give you a few moments to exit the video, come back, we'll discuss it. But this, I am going to go into spoilers. This is a spoiler review. I don't do non-spoiler, as I mentioned before. But this is you're going to be spoiled if you have not read this and continue to watch the video. So, you have been warned. But anyway, what happens is, she falls, at first, she's attracted to this boy named Justin. And she goes to a party, this is where she meets him, and, you know, they start kissing, and that's about as far as that goes. But what happens is, and of course, she does have an abusive alcoholic father who beats her mom and her sister. And what happens is, her dad catches her and Justin together, and that ends up going bad, because the next day she goes up to him at school, and he's pretty much like, you and your dad are crazy. I don't want, you know, he pretty much doesn't want to be involved with her anymore. But it goes even further, because he now is with a girl named Carmen, who she ends up punching at school, because she's really upset about Justin, or not Justin, I'm sorry, Derek. I'm getting confused here. Justin, it has another girlfriend named Tiffany. She doesn't, I'm sorry, I take that back, I had the names confused. She does not end up with Justin. Justin is the first guy she likes, but then she discovers Derek at the party, and that's who she kisses, and that's who her dad catches her with. And so she confronts Carmen, tells her pretty much not to leave him alone, and she says, well, I'm with him now, and pretty much, and you know, she ends up punching her. She ends up throwing her, I think, a bag through a window. So she kind of acts out a little bit. So her father sends her to live with her aunt, Jay. And that's basically probably one of the best things that happened to her, because she ends up ultimately establishing a wonderful relationship with the aunt. I just loved the relationship between her and the aunt. It was like a mother-daughter relationship, it turned out to be, and it was just beautiful. And so what happens is she meets Ethan, and of course she falls head over heels for Ethan. And she ultimately ends up, because she's also questioning at the same time. She's questioning a lot of things that a normal young girl would question, and she not sure if she wants to. She does value her virtue, so she ultimately gives her virginity to him. So and so they develop a beautiful relationship as well, and there's this one point where they are out in the mountains somewhere, and they run into this cougar, and of course she throws something at it and scares it away, so nothing bad happens at that point. And she's only there for the summer, so ultimately her dad does call her to come back home, but and of course she ends up getting pregnant. But she doesn't find out until she gets home. And she takes a pregnancy test. She takes a little bit, I think steals a little bit of money out of her mother's jar to get the pregnancy test. Well, and I'm just going to warn you here too. This has got a very, very sad ending. Very, very, very sad ending. So what happens is, and she at this point, at the point where she and her father ends up beating her a few times, and at that point she doesn't know that she's pregnant, but she does end up calling Ethan, because her aunt gives her, before she leaves back to go back home, her aunt gives her a cell phone, and Ethan gives her a gun, because she's already explained to him what her father's like. So, and he wanted her to be able to, he taught her how to shoot it, and he wanted her to be able to take care of herself, you know, in case she, you know, it got so bad, you know. But she ends up at school calling her dad, and Carmen overhears the conversation, or not calling her dad, I'm sorry, she ends up calling Ethan. And Carmen, and she tells Ethan, of course, she's pregnant, and he said, it's okay, I'm going to take care of you. And so she ends up telling him she's pregnant and her dad has beaten her. And so he said, oh, I'm going to come get you in a couple days. You know, he comes and gets her. And unfortunately, they end up getting in a car accident. And he ends up dying. And she ends up waking up in the hospital. And she has lost the baby, of course. But she is completely devastated. Completely devastated. So, I want to say this book has a happy ending, but it doesn't. Ultimately, she ends up remembering that Ethan had given her a gun, and she wants to go to the school. She's having thoughts about going there and killing the people that start, you know, kind of spread her business around, and also thoughts about killing her dad, and that's pretty much where it leaves off. And I mean, this was just such an emotional book. I could not put it down. It was everything I could expect from an Ellen Hopkins book, because I did read The You That I've Never Known, and it was beautiful. I mean, of course, I mean, you cannot, I mean, I don't always expect a book to have a happy ending, but this is not a standalone. So there is the next book in the series. Let me see here. I believe it's called Smoke. And I have not read, I didn't want to spoil myself yet, so I did not read, it has an excerpt from that. I had not read it. I pretty much, this is where I stopped. I read the author's note. But that's where it leaves off. But there are trigger warnings for a lot of things. Abuse. I mean, I do throw a lot. So, I mean, and again, it does not have a happy ending. So, but at the same time, it was such a beautiful book because it was so raw. I mean, it was so raw. And that's what made it so good. And I am definitely going to read all the Ellen Hopkins books, because I expect the same rawness from all her books, just like the first one I read. But I loved it. I mean, I wish that I could say that it had a happy ending, but it didn't. But at the same time, I enjoyed reading it because it was very raw and realistic, and just loved it. It made me cry. So the next book we're going to review is Tiger's Curse. And I'm going to probably, what I'm thinking about doing is every couple books that I read, I'm going to do a review on 2 books at a time. So this is Tiger's Curse. I really love this book. I really, really enjoyed this. This is by Colleen Houck. I believe it's pronounced Houck. And it's Linter Publishing. As you can see, this book has been well loved. I did break the spine. I'm not really opposed to breaking the spine on a paperback, but because I think a book should be very much loved. I was introduced to this by my BFF Megan, and recommended it. She recommended it to me, and I read it during November 2017, of course. Read it home, work, Starbucks, yeah. And I guess a noteworthy experience while reading this book is the fact that it took me to a magical, majestic world, and I just loved it. Yet again, I gave it a complete 5 stars. And in my little, I forgot to mention, in my little book journal, it also, not only does it give you the ability to rate it by stars, which you can see I colored in all 5 stars because I gave it, but it also rates it on a 1 to 10 scale with quality of writing. I rated 10. Pace is 10. 10's all the way. Plot development, characters, enjoyability, insightfulness, ease of reading. And then, of course, there's an option for photos and illustrations, which, I guess, there's not any in the book, but if you want to count the cover, definitely a 10. Definitely a 10. But, of course, other than, I think, I guess it could, because you got these little things right here before each chapter. So I guess you could count that as an illustration, and that would be a 10 as well for me, because it's just a beautiful book. And it follows Kelsey, Ren, of course the characters. I'm going to list the characters: Mr. Kadam, Keyshawn, which is Ren's brother. And basically what happens is you have Kelsey. Kelsey is looking for a summer job, so she gets a summer job at a circus, and at the circus she's drawn to this mysterious tiger, Ren. Well, what happens is Mr. Kadam one day comes and purchases Ren from the circus. So, and then he ultimately asks Kelsey he asked Kelsey to come along and accompany Ren back to India, saying that he's going to go to a wildlife reservation. Well, she ends up spending a lot of time with him. She reads poetry to him, and then he ultimately reveals himself to her as this prince who has been cursed to live as a tiger. So she ends up accompanying him to India. So she ends up staying there, and is told that she is the only one that can help him break this curse. So, and this is kind of like an Indiana Jones, so to speak. They go on adventures. They go through this cave. It gets pretty hairy because they go through these booby traps, and they develop a relationship. She loves him. He's in love with her. Sorry, I had to check something real quick. Making sure everything's okay. But he ends up falling in love with her. And she's in love with him, but at the same time, she does, and I'm also warning, and as you've been warned earlier, spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then stop the video now, come back and watch, and we'll discuss. But ultimately what happens is she ends up, I think I kind of got the impression that the curse was only ended up partially being lifted because he could be, I think, human for 6 hours, I believe it was. So let's see. I'm just trying to remember. I should have did this review right when I finished, but so unfortunately she ends up going back home and leaving Ren, and I think, and I understand why, because he's got this newfound freedom back to being a man, and she doesn't want him to be tied down to her. She wants, I get the kind of the vibe that she wants him to have all these experiences because she worries that if, what if you during your freedom you discover more and you want more and I'm not enough for you. So, the book, that's where it leaves off, and she does meet his brother Keyshawn, and during this, and then they go, and she takes him on this hunt, where she actually gets to see Ren hunt because Keyshawn tells her that that Ren needs to hunt. He's too skinny for a tiger, and just all these adventures. But it's a wonderful book. I really enjoyed it, and see if there's anything else I can say about it that I can remember. I'm just going through my notes. Okay, she gets how she lifts the curse is they get an amulet, and I believe she only gets part of the amulet. She only has part of it, and she has to go on to find the remaining pieces of it. But she received it from Durga, and she gets this little snake that turns into a bracelet that she wears on her arm. And also, when she meets Keyshawn, Keyshawn and Ren don't really have a good relationship at first, because they're still kind of working out what happened with Yesibai. Because what happened is back before the curse, Keyshawn was in love with Yesibai, but the dad promised Yesibai to Ren, which I don't think Ren cared either way. But Keyshawn was in love with Yasubai, and Yasubai was in love with Kishan, and she ended up dying because I believe she fell in, but she ended up dying, and before he had asked the father for Yasubai's hand, and they made some kind of arrangement, but it's just a wonderful story. I loved it. But anyway, that's all for now. That's all for the review for now. That concludes it. I pretty much went over everything in the book that I could remember. But I do hope you enjoyed my review. I'm currently reading The Glittering Court. I'm buddy reading with actually two friends, Megan and another friend. And I will link my friend Megan, her video her YouTube channel down below. Definitely go follow her. I'm not sure if she's going to be doing regular videos, but she has one video uploaded. But she is a wonderful friend of mine, and we do a lot of buddy reading together. But she is an awesome person. Definitely follow her. Hopefully encourage her to do more videos. But anyway, that's all for now. Peace, love, books, coffee, and I will see you soon with a new video.